In our passage today, Jesus gives us a lot of examples of what the kingdom of heaven is like. And I think he forgot one, but I'm going to give him a pass because he lived 2,000 years ago. And he missed out on saying that the kingdom of heaven is like a crisp fall Saturday afternoon at Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend, Indiana, when the Fighting Irish football team beats USC. I think that is kind of an example of what the kingdom of heaven is like. And Jesus left that one out in our scripture passage. You know, I'm sure I'm not alone in saying this, that when I was younger, there were not nearly as many things to watch on television as there are now. We didn't have as many channels as we have now. And some of you grew up with even fewer channels than I had. So when I was a kid, we had 3 over-the-air channels. So if you didn't have cable, you got 3 channels. That's all you got. And if you did have cable, even if you did have cable, then you had, maybe, 30, 35 channels. There weren't a whole lot of channels on television. So you kind of watched what everybody else was watching. But if you were anything like me, then you had that one friend who you'd go over to their house, and in their backyard, they'd have this big thing that looked like a bowl. And then that big thing that looked like a bowl, it was connected to their TV, and it was called a satellite dish. And the satellite dish was able to pick up reception from all around the world. And so by watching the satellite dish, we could see all kinds of things on TV. Things that we didn't know were on TV. There were sports from all over the world. Sports like cricket. I didn't know anything about cricket, but you could watch cricket on the satellite dish. There were things that that you wanted to see, like football games that were maybe not broadcast in your market at the time. There were things that we watched that maybe we weren't supposed to watch, being the age that we were. There were all kinds of things that were available on the satellite dish. Now, where am I going with this story about the satellite dish? Well, the mathematicians among us, of which I am not one, I want to make sure that's very clear. I am not one of those mathematicians. But the mathematicians among us would tell us that the shape of a satellite dish is called a parabola. It's called a parabola. And we know that parabola, if we look back to our high school geometry classes, we know that a parabola is kind of a U-shaped figure. Okay? And the mathematicians among us will also tell us that a parabola will reflect rays of light or sound, or in the case of a satellite dish, radio waves, into something called a focus. And if we think of a satellite or a parabola being a U-shape, right, the focus would be a little bit above the bottom of the parabola. So all of the sound or light or radio waves would be reflected to that focus. And so in the case of a satellite dish, there's something called a feed horn that's located on the focus. And so the satellite dish used to have to be a lot bigger than it is now because there were fewer satellites in space. Now they're much smaller, but they reflect the waves to the feed horn, and the feed horn is connected to your tuner. So that's how you get reception when you have a satellite dish. And we heard today a lot of parables. Jesus told a lot of parables. Parable and parabola come from the same root word. They come from a Greek word, parabole. Parabole. And bole is kind of a word that means throwing. So if we think of bowling, right, we throw a ball. Right? So that's what bowling, or even the word ball, comes from that same word, bole. And para means alongside. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this again. I brought out a prop before, and it didn't go so well. But this time, we're going to try something different with the prop. I want you to watch the ball. Not me, watch the ball. I'm going to walk, and I'm going to throw the ball in the air. So for me, the ball's just going to go up and down. But I want you to tell me what it does from your perspective. I'll try it again, going this way. Now, from my point of view, the ball just went straight up and down. But what did it do? What did it do from your perspective? It arced, didn't it? So that's a parabola in action. Okay, and Jesus talks in parables. Parable, as I said, has the same root word. Why do we call it a parable? Well, kind of for the same reason. It has a beginning and an end, and the beginning and the end give us a focus point, somewhere that may not actually be part of the parable. So Jesus talks to us in parables. And today he gives us some kind of rapid-fire parables about what is the kingdom of heaven like. Just kind of over and over and over again. He gives us lots of examples of what the kingdom of heaven is. And this is a continuation now for several weeks. He's explained what the kingdom of heaven is. The kingdom of heaven is this. The kingdom of heaven is that. And they must have made a lot of sense in the biblical days. That some of them make sense to us. But we know that they made sense in the biblical days because Jesus asks at the end of the gospel, do you understand what I'm saying? And the answer is yes. Now, that could mean that they understood what he was saying. It could also mean, like when your boss asks you, did you understand everything that I asked you to do? And you say, yeah. It could have meant that. It could have meant that. We don't want to feel dumb when we're explaining something, right? So, yeah, we got it, right? But I want to say that in addition to all those things that Jesus gave us as examples of what the kingdom of heaven is like, I think the kingdom of heaven is right here and right now. And by right here and right now, I mean here at St. John's. I think St. John's is an example of what it's like to be part of the kingdom of heaven. Well, how so? Well, for one thing, we have active outreach ministries. Ministries that go out into the community and show people the love of Jesus in the world. And when people experience the love of Jesus in the world, then it's contagious. Right? They feel that joy that we feel here in this room. They feel that joy when we go out into the world. Okay? And we also feel that joy when we come together to worship together. Liturgically speaking, I imagine this is true for you, but it's true for me, that when I come into this place, I feel a lot of joy. We have different expressions of music. Each expression of music gives me a different sense of joy, and I'm guessing that's probably true for you as well. And so those and others are examples of how St. John's is part of the kingdom of heaven. And we want to share that. We want to share the kingdom of heaven with people who may not already know that the kingdom of heaven is here with us. Now, what happens if we do that? What happens if we share the good news and we share that this is the kingdom of heaven and people believe what we have to say, right? We're going to grow the church. We're going to grow the church, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing provided we do it for the right reasons. And one of those reasons is to share the love of God with people in the community. Now, people might say, well, Father Tim, if you're the rector at St. John's and the church grows, isn't that a good thing for you? Doesn't that make you feel like you're successful? Doesn't that add something for your resume? And the answer is, well, probably. If I'm looking at it that way, probably. But that's not the reason for doing it, right? That's ego. That's ego getting in the way. The reason that I want to see this church grow is because I want us to share the kingdom of heaven with more and more people so that they can experience the same joy that I already experienced, that we already experience together. And the same thing is true for all of us. It probably feels good when we see new people come and visit us and spend time here. It probably feels good, and that's a good thing. It's good that it feels good. But our intention is for it to feel good for them too. It's good for everybody to feel good by being part of that kingdom of heaven. And it's important that we communicate effectively that the church, the kingdom of heaven, is for everyone. It's not an exclusive club. Right? And for too long, different expressions of what it means to be the church have excluded people for a lot of reasons. Maybe by gender, maybe by race or sexual orientation. Lots of reasons that people have felt excluded from what it is to be part of the church. And it's important to communicate that this church is for everybody. This church is a place where everyone can belong. There is, sadly, a growing number of nuns in the world today. And I don't mean women who wear habits and go to monasteries and pray. I don't mean N-U-N-S nuns. I mean N-O-N-E-S nuns. People who don't affiliate with any kind of religious expression. And I think part of the reason for that is because the church has not done a great job of making sure people know that the church is for everyone. If people have felt excluded, why would they want to be part of an organization that excludes? So we don't exclude, we radically include. And how do we do that? How do we share with people, even people who identify as nuns, N-O-N-E-S, nuns? How do we share the kingdom of heaven with people who don't otherwise know about us? And I've got two words that are kind of scary and at the same time kind of important. Okay? Evangelism and stewardship. Those are two ways that we as the church can help to show that the church is for everyone. Well, how so? How so? Well, first of all, it's important to acknowledge why those words are scary. Those words make us feel vulnerable. Right? And why is that? Well, because we're exposing a piece of ourselves. We're revealing a piece of ourselves, an intimate piece of ourselves. We're giving of ourselves financially and spiritually and physically and in all kinds of different ways. We're giving of ourselves. So we're opening ourselves up. It's vulnerable to be an evangelist and to be a steward. But it's important because of the message that it conveys when we do those things effectively. One is it shows that we care about our church. Right? We show that we care about the property that we come to gather, to worship. It shows that we care about this building, about this land that we occupy. It shows that we care for this piece of God's creation. And it shows that we continue to do those things I mentioned earlier, right, of bringing the love of Jesus into the world. It's a way that we can do that. And I think St. John's is a joyful place. And when we share the joy that we experience, then it becomes contagious. People pick up on that, and people want to experience some of that same joy. Well, how does that look in today's world? We're in 2023 now, right? And I think what it takes is kind of outside the box thinking and creativity and trying some things that maybe we didn't know if they would work, and trying some new things and thinking, well, I don't know if I can do this, but giving it a shot anyway. And one of the things we need to do is we need to kind of be like Ariel in The Little Mermaid. Seen The Little Mermaid? And she sings a song where she says, I want to be where the people are. Right? We need to be where the people are in order to communicate with them effectively and to share the love of Jesus with them. And one of the ways we can do that is with social media. Social media was kind of a lifeline for us during the pandemic, wasn't it? There are different platforms on social media, and I'm going to take a little survey. How many among us have a Facebook account? How many have a Facebook account? So a good number. How about Instagram? How many have Instagram? Okay, so not quite as many. How about YouTube. We have a few YouTubers. Okay, how about TikTok? Do we have any TikTokers here? A few. We have a few TikTokers here. Okay, so it's important to branch out into those avenues, right? Because that's where people are. On the digital platform anyhow, right? And so at St. John's, we're kind of starting to do some of that. We've set up a St. John's Instagram page and put some videos on there. We're going to put more, but essentially to get the word out, to get the word out. And what are some other ways we can do that? Well, we can go share the love of God when we go do the things that we were going to do today anyway. We can go when we're stopping at the grocery store on our way home. We can share the good news with people. We can share the good news with our friends who maybe haven't realized that they need to join us yet, in a way that's non-threatening. Like, hey, would you like to come and join me? And then not make them do the work. We can do the work. We can say, well, I'll give you a ride, and we'll go to breakfast after the service. We'll go to brunch together. Right? We'll go have lunch together. I'll drive us. And it takes the effort out from that person, right? And then we get to share that love, because when those people come here and join us, they realize, hey, this is a great place, and I am welcome here. There are lots of ways to become creative and to be good stewards and to be good evangelists and to share the kingdom of heaven with everybody in our lives. The kingdom of heaven really can be, for some of us, a fall football Saturday at Notre Dame Stadium. But it can also be here at St. John's any day of the week. Any day of the week. I see the kingdom of heaven here at St. John's every day. And when we have more of the kingdom of heaven, when we have more that we share with others, we don't have less of it for ourselves. We have more of it for ourselves. The more people we share the kingdom of heaven with, the more of it we experience ourselves. So continue to be the kingdom of heaven here in this place and share the love of the kingdom of heaven with everybody in your lives. Keep doing the work that God is calling you to do. And keep sharing the love of God, especially to people who haven't been able to receive that the love of God is available for them as well. Amen.